In today's lesson, we are going to kind of do what we started to do yesterday, and we're going to find the distance of a line segment or the distance between 2 points on a coordinate plane. Since yesterday's video kind of got a little bit longer, I wanted to kind of move this onto today so that we could have more time and more thorough discussion. This is a little bit trickier. It's not entirely difficult, but it does have a little bit more to it. So we're going to talk about when a point lies on an axis. And remember, we talked yesterday about when there's a 0 in one of the two coordinates, that the line or the point then lies on the other axis. Okay, so let's take a look. Consider the points -4, 0 and 5, 0. Okay, this again is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. So the x-axis is not a 0 in both of these. The y-axis is a 0 in both. They're the same. When we find distance in 6th grade, we're going to find distance when they share one coordinate. Okay, you probably, I'm going to hope that you won't find distance when they don't share any. Okay, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I don't think that that's the case. So here, the y is the 0. So the y doesn't move. We don't go up or down any. We stay right there in the middle. We move to the left or right on the x. So these 2 points are going to lie on the x-axis. Both of these points are on the x because they don't move from the y. On the x does not move from the y. Okay, to find the distance, we need to find absolute value. Now, absolute value, remember, is the distance away from 0. So we need to find out how far is each from 0. And if we're going to find distance with absolute value, remember that if the original two numbers have opposite signs, they're on the opposite side of 0, we're going to add their absolute value. Okay, so I'm going to put my little note up here, and if you need to rewrite this in your ISNC, remember, do it. So opposite sides of 0, so opposite sides, we're going to add absolute value. And if you need to write that all out so you know what those little abbreviations mean, do that. I just wanted to do it quickly. If they're on the same side of 0, so they're both positive or they're both negative, if they're on the same side, we're going to subtract their absolute value. Okay, that's going to be important for us to remember. Okay, let's take a look at these numbers. It says, what do the order pairs have in common? And what does that mean about their location on the coordinate plane? Well, they have their common y-axis of 0, or the y-coordinate of 0, excuse me. And that tells us that their location is going to be on the x-axis. All right, so let's find the distance between these 2 points. To do that, it's really not too difficult, but we kind of just have to understand the process, and that takes us a little while. So the first thing that we need to do is find the absolute value. So I'm going to put step 1. Find absolute value of different, I'm going to capitalize it, of the different coordinate. And now what I mean by that is these are the same. So we're not going to find the absolute value of those. They're the same. They're not always going to be 0, but they're the same. I want to find the one that's different. These two are different from each other. They're not the same. So that's the different part. Okay, so that's our first step. Let's do that. So we need the absolute value of -4 and the absolute value, we have room to scoot down a little bit, not really, absolute value of 5. So I'm going to find the absolute value of each of those. Okay, so the absolute value of -4, that's distance away from 0, is 4. Okay, the absolute value of 5, its distance from 0, is 5. All right, so we did that. Step 2, we're going to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that. So opposite sides, originally, it's opposite sides we're going to add, and I'm going to make my own little note here. This is my add. When I mean I want to add something, I always do it that way, so I could just write it short. Add absolute values. If they're on the same side originally, we're going to subtract, and that's my short way of writing subtract. It's my own little note taking. If you need to write it out, do that. I'm going to subtract absolute values. Okay, so let's look at this. We have a negative and a positive. Those are our original numbers. Those are on opposite sides of 0, so we're going to add the absolute values. So 4 and 5 is 9. So the distance between negative 4, 0 and 5, 0 is 9 units. I forgot my label here, I'm sorry. 9 units. Now, I am going to pull out my coordinate grid from yesterday's lesson, the first one that we did, and I want to see if it really is, I could count it. So I'm going to see. Negative 4, 0, I'm going to mark it first. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the first one, we'll call it A because it's first. And 5, 0, we'll call it B since it's second. Okay, I want to find the distance. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we were correct. Okay, so we take this absolute value and this absolute value, we put them together to see how far the whole distance is. Okay, so we don't need the coordinate grid to figure out distance any longer. We can do that on our own. Isn't that great? Okay, let's take a look at the next example. We're going to follow the same steps. Consider the line segment with endpoints 0, negative 6, and 0, negative 11. Okay, so this is a line segment. These were just points. So it's kind of the same idea. We just drew a line between them now. Endpoints 0, negative 6, and 0, negative 11. What do they have in common? Well, their x-axis is 0, just like this one had the y-axis. So we know that it lies on the y-axis. So this one's going to be on the vertical axis because it doesn't move from the x. All right, so let's find the distance. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is find the absolute value of the differing coordinate, so the one that's different. So that would be this negative 6 and this negative 11. Those are the ones that are different. So let's find the absolute values. Absolute value of negative 6 and the absolute value of negative 11. Okay, absolute value of negative 6 is 6 spots away from 0. The absolute value of negative 11 is 11 spots away from 0. Okay, did step 1. Step 2, if they're on the opposite sides originally, we're going to add them. Let's see. Negative and negative, they're going to be on the same side of 0. So the same side, we're going to subtract their values. Now, I don't want to put 6 on top in this case. I'm just going to find the largest value, subtract the smaller value. So 11 minus 6 is 5 units. So that line segment is 5 units long. Okay, let's check. We'll just use our grid here to check. 0, negative 6. We'll call it C, since we already have an A and a B. Oops, I'm sorry, you can't see that. And the other one was 0, negative 11. Oh, we don't have room for that, but we'll put it down here. It's one line away. Oh, we'll call it D. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's see. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. That's what we found. Okay, we're proving it with that grid there, that coordinate grid. Okay, but this one doesn't lie on any axis, and I know this because none of my coordinates are 0. Okay, this is where it's going to come in that we have to find the different coordinate. So I didn't say the one that's not 0, because they're not always 0. Not all points lie on that axis, or the other one. So, all right, so let's see. What did they have in common? What did these have in common? Well, I see a negative 3, 3, negative 3, negative 5. I see they both have a negative 3. That means that they're both going to start by going to the negative 3 on this x-axis here. That tells me that they're both going to lie on this line here. Not on the x-axis, but on this vertical line. So if they share an x-coordinate, they're going to lie on the same y line or vertical line. If they share the same y coordinate, they're going to lie on the same horizontal line or the same x line? Okay, let's follow our steps and how far it is from one point to the other. Okay, step 1, find the absolute value of the different coordinates. Okay, so this one is the same, so we're going to find the absolute value of this one and this one. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see a little closer. Okay, so we're going to find the absolute value of 3 and the absolute value of -5. Okay, let's do that. That's step 1 that we got to do here. Absolute value of 3, the absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of -5 is 5. Now, step 2, if they were on opposite sides or same sides. Okay, let's see. Positive, negative. They're on opposite sides. So using my key here, which one I'm going to use? I'm going to choose this one. They were on opposite sides, so we're going to add their absolute values. So 5 and 3 makes 8 units. All right, just for the sake of scientific research here, how about we check? Okay, -3, 3, and I'm going to call them E and F. So don't forget. Okay, I forgot what it was now. -3, 3. Okay, so -3, 3. E, and it should be on that same line. -3, yep, -5, same line, E and F. Okay, let's see how far it is. Finding the distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Awesome. I would rather, if it was me, I would rather use these steps to find it because it's fairly quick after we get going than to plot them and then find it. Because we might not have a coordinate grid. We'd have to draw the coordinate grid, figure out what to count by, find our point, then count from one point to the next point. It's a lot of work. This is not so much work. We just have to remember those steps. So make sure for sure that these steps are in your ISN so we don't forget them. And then those examples so we can refer back to them. Any questions? You know the drill. Please put them in your ISN.